So Tim, tell me what your favorite thing is about building musical instruments.
My favorite part about building musical instruments, I would say it's a very unique blend of where art meets manufacturing. So essentially, I run a manufacturing business, so you've got to look at part sourcing, materials, costs. You got to keep all that kind of stuff very well organized to in your price structure. And so there's a very strong administrative aspect to it, but it also blends a lot of art as well. So it's something where I feel like it's a medium where I can um, put forth my own creativity and my own ideas and designs and innovations. Although the banjo business tends to be, pretty constrained by tradition. There's very strong traditions that tend to run over the past 150 years in banjos because they're still built essentially the same as they have been 150 years ago. But I feel like a lot of modern builders are able to kind of put their own stamp on things and kind of make it their own personality.
Great.
All of the banjos here at Cedar Mountain Banjos are built entirely here in the shop. So generally, the way that we'll start is we will start out constructing the rims, and so the way that I construct my rims is a little bit different from how a lot of builders do it, where kind of the industry norm is to have some long pieces of wood and steam bend them. So they actually get steamed for a period of time and then bent around a form and then glued and laminated together. The way that I build my rims is actually what's called block construction. So I'm actually cutting out little segments out of a flat plank of various types of woods that I use for the rims. They get cut out, trimmed, and then glued and stacked together, kind of like similar to like a brick wall, basically. So think of it as being sort of a round brick wall, and to me that presents it is a bit more labor intensive than the other type of construction, but to me it's totally worthwhile. I think that there's a number of different of advantages with going with a block rim. That being, one of the big things is that you don't have to steam it and you don't have to put all this tension on the wood. And also, there's no vertical glue seam, so you're kind of eliminating that tension in the wood. You're not altering it on a molecular level. So to me, the block rims tend to have, I think that they have more complexity of the sound. You can hear more of the wood. It seems like there's more depth to it. They just sound cleaner to me and purer, and plus they look really cool. The neck, so I get my necks, I get my neck billets from a supplier who pre-selects everything for me. They're absolutely top grade, some of the best wood that you'll find anywhere. And I get my necks. They arrive as a 3-inch by 3-inch billet that's about 30 inches long. And the very first thing we do is resaw it down the middle with the bandsaw. Let it sit for several weeks to several months, depending on what kind of wood it is. And so that way the tension of the wood has a chance to settle out a little bit. And then we have various cutting processes where we can level that out, joint it, plane it, book match the grain, and then I actually put a black veneer piece that goes in the middle. And so that results in a nice pinstripe that goes straight up the middle of the neck. And it's not only a decorative touch, but it adds to the stability of the neck as well. It makes them very rigid and strong, and not as prone to wanting to warp or move around with age.
And how about the pot, Tim? What's the head like?
The head, I use several different types of head. The majority of the heads that I use are actually a synthetic mylar material that's made by a company called the Remo Corporation, and they're basically like they make all the drum heads and banjo heads for everybody in the industry. And so there's different synthetic materials that are used. I think the most popular one in the open back world where I work in is what's called the Renaissance head. And so that's kind of a thin mylar material that gives it kind of a very balanced sound. Now I do on occasion get people request actual real skin heads. Those tend to be, they sound great. They sound fantastic when they're set up properly, but they tend to pose a number of, little problems. Usually the main one being is they tend to stretch a lot, especially if they haven't been pre-treated with some kind of chemical that stabilizes them. So there's just a lot of tweaking that you have to do with it. It seems like you always have to fuss with them all the time.
Tell me a
Yeah.
little
I would say me being a musician for the past 30 years, I think it's allowed me to hone my ear a lot more. I've also, in the past probably 10 years or so, I've gotten a lot into like audio engineering and recording. And so again, when you listen to music and with that type of ear, you pick out a lot of the little finer details and the tones and the tonal qualities of different things. And so, um, I kind of, I guess, have formed an idea over the years of what my ear likes to hear, not only in an instrument, but in a playing style. And like, of course, I have my favorite bands and my favorite artists and singers and players who I really like a whole lot, and of course that comes down to what are my favorite instruments, what I want a banjo to sound like, and banjo isn't even really my main instrument, but since I've been in the middle of the building world, and trying all these numbers of different combinations of wood and metal basically is what it comes down to. It's like, what combination of wood and metal am I going to use today? And to me, that kind of, what results in your banjo tone.
Get started making banjos. It's not something everybody picks up when you're a young guy.
Right. Well, my dad started Cedar Mountain Banjos in 1996. Low Gordon, he was the founder and original owner of Cedar Mountain Banjos. It was kind of all based on his vision, and he's been a long time craftsman. He's always, if he wanted a boat, he would build himself a boat. If he wanted a banjo, he would build himself a banjo. So he's always been that type of guy, like a very much of a DIY, do-it-yourselfer kind of person. He's actually built the majority of the furniture in the shop that we're sitting in right now. He just built it with his own two hands. Some of it's 30 years old. It's been around a long time. So he took the same approach with the banjo. He wanted to take up the banjo, and so his first banjo was actually a kit from Stuart McDonald, which they still sell that kit. That same exact kit, I'm pretty sure. So he took it, he put it together. It wasn't long before he started taking a ruler to it and being like, oh, I kind of think I can do this myself. And so then he started doing it himself, and he's always had an impeccable eye for craftsmanship. He's always been very picky about his work, and has had lots of self-critique about his own work. And so that, I think, has resulted in, just right off the bat, a really fine, superior product. And back then, in the mid-90s, when he first got started, there wasn't a whole lot of custom open back makers. I mean, there's really only a couple guys in the entire industry who were building open back banjos. So he very quickly found a little niche, especially with the wood tone rings that he started using originally, and then the rest is history. And then he very quickly got a wait list for his banjos. Okay.
Now it's time for you to pick up a Cedar Mountain banjo, which I know because I own a Cedar Mountain banjo built by Lowe and yourself,
Okay.
both.
Okay.
Let's hear you play a little bit of banjo.
Here, so this is a little tune called "Cold Frosty Morning."